Jay, that's strangely close to Daniel Jones from the Giants. Daniel, is that you? Beat the Chiefs. Show me. If the Broncos and Russell Wilson can show me that they can beat the Chiefs, then I will start believing.
The crowd up. And so are this defense, and Kansas City won't snap the ball again. The Denver Broncos have beaten the Kansas City Chiefs.
David Montgomery on the Lions, former Bear, gonna make this his revenge game for sure. David Montgomery gets the touchdown that ices the game. No! And there's the flag. There's flags. There's flags. There's flags. There's flags. Snap. Hold. Kick.
Denver wins! Denver wins! Let's go!
They open. No!
What happened? Oh, shit. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Only Football. We are doing lineup questions tonight, and hopefully that's not how we wanted to do that. Let's see. That'll do. Hopefully we can get some questions going in here. I've been doing this, I don't know, about 3 weeks in a row now. We've been getting some good questions. I think I've been doing pretty good. I can go back and recall a couple questions that I've gotten, and so far I've made some pretty good decisions. I'm looking at week 8, and we're going to go through a couple things. First off, of course, we're going to look at waiver wire additions, week 8. We do this every single week. We're also going to look at moves to make, players to buy low, players to sell high, tight end streamers and waiver targets. We're going to look at quarterback streamers and waiver wire targets. We're going to look at streaming defenses. If you are one of those guys out there that live your life on the edge, going from defense to defense, and hey, I've lived that way before. If that's you, we're going to give you some streaming defenses this week. And we're also going to talk wide receiver and tight end stashes, some players to put away. And then we're going to circle it back around with the waiver wire pickups for deeper leagues. So if you are in a 12-man league, I'm in a 12-man league, man, it gets difficult. It gets difficult in these deeper leagues. But welcome back. Week 7's in the books, and it's time to kind of sift through everything we just watched. And what we're going to talk about today is it's not going to be charts and graphs. It's just going to be clear, actionable takeaways. My goal here each week is simple, and it's to give you the most important moves to make across every game. Who to add, who to drop, who to buy, who to sell, buy low, sell high. I've already done a lot of the legwork, digging into the data and film. You just get the results. No noise, no overthinking. If that's the kind of thing you like, expect plenty of notes on future episodes. But for time sake, we're going to go beyond all of that, and we're going to just give you the best parts here. Now, I had Zonovan Knight, hold Zonovan Knight, sell Marvin Harrison Jr., okay? Jacoby Brissett made his second start of the NFL season with Kyler Murray. Per NGS, Jacoby Brissett was productive when passing in rhythm, between 2.5 and 4 seconds, completing 13 of 20 passes for 132 yards and a touchdown when throwing between 2.5 and 4 seconds. So overall, Jacoby Brissett completed 25 of 36 for 279 and 2 touchdowns. However, he was pressured on over half of his dropbacks, and he was sacked 6 times. I made a comment last week and the week before, and now this will be the third time I've made this comment. I feel that the Cardinals offense is operating at a higher level without Kyler Murray. And, the Trey McBride, he looks good no matter who his quarterback is. You can't say the same for the wide receivers. Like Marvin Harrison has just 2 catches despite 8 targets. He's the air yards leader, 40% with 66 incomplete air yards. Through 7 games, Marvin Harrison Jr. is PFF's 65th graded wide receiver. He's wide receiver 43 in expected points per game. I don't think it's going to happen with Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't think it's going to happen with Kyler Murray as his quarterback. So I'm not in love with the postseason schedule either for Arizona. Houston, Atlanta, Cincinnati. I expect Kyler Murray to return after the bye week. So in theory, that does make Trey McBride a sell high. But elite tight ends are a rare commodity. So it all depends on the return and what else you have at tight end. As for the backfield, it's a mess. You got Zonovan, there it is. Zonovan Knight is the starter, leading the way with 14 carries for 57 scoreless yards, 4 targets. Also the goal line back. He's got 3 red zone touches. Michael Carter had 7 carries for 11 yards, 2 catches for 25 yards. Knight did get hurt in this game, though dealing with a concussion. Dearness Johnson was active for this game, and he also chipped in snaps, mostly on third down. So you had Zonovan Knight with 45% of snaps, Carter with 37, and then Dearness Johnson with 18%, with Amari Demercado factoring in post-bye and Trey Benson eventually coming back. You don't need to hold any Cardinals running backs too tightly. Running back depth, nothing more, nothing less. According to the Fantasy Pro Strength of Schedule tool, Arizona's running back schedule is a bottom 8. So if you can sell these guys, do it. Okay, they get Dallas after the bye, but that's the last layup. The only guy I would try to keep is Zonovan Knight. The Cardinals also lost Josh Sweat to an injury in this game, although he did return. So when it comes to the Arizona Cardinals, hold Zonovan Knight, sell Marvin Harrison Jr. If you can get a haul for Trey McBride, I would sell Trey McBride again. And one last time, when you get into the postseason in fantasy football, the postseason schedule is going to be Houston, Atlanta, and Cincinnati. They got Dallas. Then it's going to be Seattle, San Francisco, Jacksonville, Tampa, the Rams, the Texans. A lot of more difficult opponents coming up. Okay. Next up, buy all Falcons. Buy them all. Kyle Pitts. He's like, all of my concerns about Kyle Pitts for the last 3 years have all dissipated. All right. He had 11 targets, caught 7 for 62 yards. Drake London was a disappointment, but somehow still saw 10 targets. Buy low. Darnell Mooney made his return to the lineup with 3 receptions for 68 yards and 7 targets. I picked up Darnell Mooney off of my waiver wire, and I'm starting him this week. And Darnell Mooney is actually, I mean, like, the numbers didn't jump off the screen, but when you watch the game, there were a lot of plays that Darnell Mooney was open downfield and Penix missed, or there was a flag. Like, the opportunities are going to be there. Remember, this is his first game back since having that injury early in the Commanders game, week 4. And the game before that, he had 11 targets. So He had more catches against the Niners than he did in that 11 target game. So the connection with Michael Penix, it's been a work in progress, but like when it comes to Darnell Mooney, he has the speed and the talent to take the top off of the defense, and we know that Darnell Mooney can ball. So he's somebody that I really like what I saw watching the 49ers game. Atlanta's offense was terrible. They just were not good. But Darnell Mooney somehow was a bright spot in this game, because even when he wasn't getting receptions and moving the ball, moving the chains, you still saw Michael Penix trying to get Darnell Mooney the football, which is one of the things that we're looking for, is like, hey, when the quarterback drops back on any given passing play, how dedicated is he to getting this guy the ball? Is he even, how frustrating is it when you got a guy like Darnell Mooney and a quarterback drops back and you're like, he's not even looking over there, right? This was the opposite of that. Darnell Mooney was being legit looked at every single passing play. And that's why he was able to get 5 targets. I think he would have gotten a lot more if the offense didn't have their arguably worst performance. Well, actually, they got shut out by Carolina. Their second worst performance of the year. In every other game besides that Carolina game, they've scored 20 or more points, 20, 22, 24, 34 against the Commanders. For whatever reason, credit the 49ers. They have a ton of injuries, great coaching, but Atlanta was just not good. And they have Miami next on the schedule. Expect Darnell Mooney to make his, I would call this his breakout game this year, although it's almost at the halfway point of the year. Better late than never. We got Jason Ortiz. Should I drop Mixon? Evans might be back for fantasy playoffs week 15 through 17. Henry got Ertz for Tracy, Manungai, Brashad Smith, and Tez. Henry. Are you saying you got Derrick Henry? Okay, let's see. Should I drop Nick Chubb, Cooper Kupp for Trez, Mooney, Coleman, Manungai, Brashad Smith? Brashad Smith is like, if you're in a super deep league, but right now the Darnell Mooney right now with Pacheco last week Pacheco had I think he had around 75% of the snaps, and everybody was expecting like, okay, Pacheco had that big game, and then we just saw him go back down to, I think, like around 55%. So they're having a hard enough time getting Isaiah Pacheco involved in that offense with the two-headed monster there, and you're waiting to see like, okay, what are they doing? Is it running back by committee? But Brashad Smith, we've seen him get involved in the passing game, but I haven't seen it to the point where has there even been one game where you're like, yeah, I wish I was starting Brashad Smith. You see him and you're like, okay, the Chiefs are ramping him up, but does it ever look good enough to start? And I think no. And I think it's important to keep in mind, because I think it's easy to get a ton of guys that are projected 9 to 10 points. But the problem is you can't start all of them. And most of them you'll never start. Brashad Smith had 14 attempts against the Raiders, but a large amount was just the direct result of this game turning into a joke. I mean, you got to keep in mind, it's 31-0. The Chiefs are at they're up 21-0 at the end of the half. So you're going to see, a lot of work for Brashard Smith, but that's not going to happen again. Before this game, he had the highest amount of carries was 13, but usually he has around 2, 4, 9. Like I said, his biggest contribution is in the receiving game. But if you want to stash him, I think that's not the worst decision. But Cooper Kupp, he just got dropped in my league. Nick Chubb, I have no problem dropping Nick Chubb or Cooper Kupp right now. Darnell Mooney has more upside than Nick Chubb and Cooper Kupp. Monangai is a really good pickup right now. You saw the Bears. I mean, he's playing a serious role right now in this offense. Excuse me. Look at the amount of attempts he had. He had 13 attempts. I mean, he's getting goal line carries. So I feel like what we saw from Kyle Monangai was very promising, and I would absolutely pick him up. Look, he had this upside going into the year. People were talking about Monangai. Watch out for Monangai. I mean, in my league, he was drafted. So he's not available in my league, but if you can get him off of your waiver wire, yeah, definitely pick him up. And then I'm surprised Keon Coleman's available. But yeah, I mean, Keon Coleman, Monangai, and Darnell Mooney, I think those are all good pickups. And then I assume you're talking about Bo Nix's brother, right? Let me see really quick. Trez is the receiver for the Buccaneers that's out of Oregon, right? Bo Nix's adopted brother. He's also a must-add, very shifty wide receiver that's going to get a lot of targets with Mike Evans being gone for the rest of the year. Cade Otton was their number one receiver in yards on Monday night. So that's not good. And then you saw oh my gosh, this guy went from having his first game action where he had that big deep touchdown, and then people were like, I'll pick him up, see what happens. And then we saw him get utilized way more than we could have even imagined. So I think it's good stuff. I mean, those are all on my list of waiver additions this week. Should I drop Brandon Ayuk / Fanning? Got Tyler Warren. Okay. And yeah, I know it for Trez. So drop Ayuk and Fanning. And why do you have to? Oh, okay. For Trez, Spears, Monangai, Brashard Smith. Man, you really liked Brashard Smith. I'm not that high on Brashard Smith. Trez, a great pickup. Do you have to drop two guys? Can you or do you have to drop 3 for 3? I mean, I would keep Brandon Ayuk. Fanning, I mean, you have Tyler Warren, but the Colts haven't had a bye week yet. And, that's fine. You can get Cade Otton was available on the waiver wire. I don't know if that's the case for you, but if that's the case for you, then, I mean, yeah, if you want to drop Fanning, go ahead and do that. Just keep in mind that, there's going to be a bye week. And if you want to hold until after the bye week is over, that could be the right move because you're going to have, I don't know when his bye week is, but Fannon's bye week is going to be week 9. But I mean, he's had He had 10 targets 2 weeks ago. 5 targets, 36 yards, 15 points, 11 points. I mean, he's doing pretty decent, but with David Njoku sideline, the question is, when is David Njoku going to come back? But Fannin does have clear chemistry with Gabriel Davis or Dylan Gabriel. So I think maybe keep him until, I mean, the Patriots matchup, and then drop him after that because he's going on a bye week anyway. But I'm not super big on Tyjae Spears. I would go for Monangai in Trez, and I would probably keep Fanning. And you seem to really want Brashard Smith, so I would just go ahead and do it, or you'll be kicking yourself if he breaks out. But I would go that way over Tyjae Spears, because I just, there's nothing good about the Titans running game. There's just not, you know what I mean? He rushed the ball 5 times for 22 yards. He had 3 catches for 18 yards. Pollard outproduced him as a pass catcher. That was the role that Tyjae Spears seemingly had taken over since he returned to the field. I mean, he didn't even do what he's like here to do. He didn't even outpace him in reception. So there's nothing there for me. The Titans, I don't want anything to do with any players on the team. We got Lil E in the chat. What's up, Lil E? Aiden said, should I pick up Chris or Godson or Auden or Taylor for just this week? Ooh, okay, for just this week. And I'm assuming you meant Chris Godwin, or did you mean Gadsden? Because I don't know if you were talking about the. I didn't know if you were talking about the Bucks or you're talking about Oronde Gadsden from the Chargers. But if you're looking at the 2 tight ends, I think you got to look at the matchups here. Number one, you got a guy that has a really quick rapport. Now, in Gadsden, he's got back-to-back weeks where he's got 7 catches on 8 or more targets, and this dude had 164 yards against the Colts. So, like, yeah, I almost think you have to get him. Now, usually I would say, like, you know, if there's something that is like, sure, like Cade Otton feels safe. He's been playing with Baker Mayfield for multiple years. That relationship has been there. They're getting banged up at the receiver position, so he's getting a lot of targets. But once in a while, something comes up that is just too appealing to turn away from. And Gadsden, in my opinion, is like, yeah, if Gadsden and Auden were both available in my league, I'm trying to get Gadsden, because we have now 2 weeks in a row where, yeah, last week he didn't have 30 fantasy points, but it doesn't matter because he had 7 catches. He had the same amount of catches. He had 1 target away from the same amount of targets. So, yeah, he's not going to get 30 points every week, but if he gets the amount of targets that we're seeing on a consistent basis, then his floor is around 12 points and his ceiling's around 30. So I think you got to go and I'm talking to myself here too. I'm actually was trying to figure out early what to what to do because I have TJ Hawkinson and Dalton Kincaid. But I just don't like what's going on at quarterback over there. So, like, I put in a claim to drop TJ Hawkinson for Gadsden. And, if I'm wrong about that, then so be it. I mean, I've been starting Dalton Kincaid anyway, so I'm not really too worried about it. Um, yeah, this guy's in a bum league because he's like, how is he's probably thinking, how are all those guys available? You know what I mean? Like in my league, and that's what sucks for me is I'm doing pretty good. So if there's a waiver wire to be had, like I don't get it. My league is everyone's active. If there's like an obvious pickup, you got to be way ahead of it. Like I was telling people 2 weeks ago to get Vital before he had his breakout game. And at that point, everyone was like, who's it going to be, Vital or is it going to be Haskins? And I told everybody it's going to be Vital. And nobody knew. But I just went off of the fact that Vital was coached under Jim Harbaugh at Michigan. I'm like, they have a relationship. And when you have nothing, it's like finding something like that. That's how you get ahead of the curve when you're in a 12-team league. Everybody's like super active on the waiver wire, and you are like last priority on the waiver. Because if I'm not like highly aggressive and, like having really good foresight, I don't get anybody. Like by the time it gets to me, I'll put in 4 claims and I'll get, none of them, or the one that I didn't even really want, that's the one I'll get. It's that point of the year where people are dropping players and you're like, what is Garrett Wilson doing here? I'm not kidding. Garrett Wilson was on the waiver wire, and I had Josh Downs, who I picked up from waivers, and I just put in a claim for Garrett Wilson to drop Josh Downs, thinking that the Jets might make a trade before the deadline and get a better quarterback in there, or maybe just going with Tyrod Taylor will help out. Gadsden to drop Hawkinson, Cade Otton to drop Hawkinson. One of those is going to hopefully work, or none of them. And then Chris Godwin was available, so I dropped Troy Franklin. Pending transaction. We'll see. But I got 5 pending transactions in right now. Bro, I listened to the same question from this guy in 2 other chats. He's not even listening. The same question is in 3 other lives. Jeez. All right. Thanks for the heads up. Thanks for the heads up. Another my brother just finished watching the movie Greater. That's a great movie. Isn't that the one where the kid is blindfolded and he's doing bear crawls? It's kind of cringy, but he's like, take off your blindfold. And he's like all the way across the field. Cue the instrumental Christian music, motivation stuff. I'm a sucker for it. I make fun of it the whole time, yet I watch it all the way through. It's like, you like it. Why are you making fun of it? It's like both things can be true. But I mean, the Otton and the Gadsden thing, just to, be as clear as I can, Otton is the safer choice. Gadsden is the risk worth taking. That's the way I'm looking at it right now. Oh, I'm kind of talking myself out of it right now. I just look at Otton and I'm like, dude, how healthy is Chris Godwin gonna stay? Like Otton, I mean, he could have a 30-point week, and it wouldn't shock me at all. So, and who's quarter? I don't know. Both quarterbacks are gonna throw it. You know what? I don't say this much, but I think right now it's like flip a coin. That sounds like a cop out, but that's just where I'm at with both of them. It's like if you told me I had to drop Christian McCaffrey or Jonathan Taylor. It's it, it how would you pick one? You know? I mean, if they're averaging around the same, they're getting the same usage targets, all of that. I just that's how I feel about that specific question. Trade Devontae and Gadsden for London, or Devontae and Daniel Jones for Ibuka. I would go Emeka Ibuka. Number one, you wouldn't be trading Daniel Jones if you didn't also have Lamar Jackson. Am I right? You have Lamar Jackson, don't you? Lamar Jackson's been injured. You were lucky enough to pick up Daniel Jones. He's gotten you 30 points the last 2 weeks in a row. And now Lamar Jackson's healthy again. And you don't know what to do with Daniel Jones. So you thought, hey, why don't I try to trade this guy? He's too valuable to leave on the bench. He's got some good trade value. Davante Adams just had a 3-touchdown game. So why don't I pair him, package that up, and get a bona fide star at wide receiver? You're trying to sell high on Adams and capitalize on the fact that you don't need Daniel Jones anymore. I got one problem. I have one problem with that whole thing. Okay. And it's that Davante Adams should not be traded, in my opinion. In my humble opinion, I don't think Davante Adams should be traded. I'll tell you why. Let me just get to it really quick because I'm trying to see. I just wrote about this. And actually, last week's episode is when I talked about it. I think it was Risers. Yeah, it was Riser. It was sell high, buy low, sell high. Trade advice. Yeah, this was it. It was trade advice. I think it was on October 21st. Sell high, buy low. Yes. This was it. Okay. Let's see if I can get it. Sell high. Damn, where did I put it? Basically, I had a whole thing put together on why you should do whatever you can to trade for Davante Adams. Davante Adams has like 27 red zone targets before the London game. Okay. Now, when I was looking at this, I was like, guys, like, no shit. Like, Davante Adams is about to have a 40-point week. It just hasn't happened yet because they haven't been clicking, right? They just haven't, it hasn't happened yet for him. But the targets are there, and it's crazy. Like, you got the number one receiver was like Davante Adams with like 27 red zone targets. And number two was like at like 15. Like, it's not even close. It is not even close. Like, Davante Adams. And also, you look at the Rams and the offense, and you trust him. And Puka Nacua, he's got this, injury. And I know that after a 3-touchdown game, it's tempting to think hey, I should probably sell high on this guy. I could probably get a lot for him. But I just don't know if that's the move, because I would not be shocked if he were to do this again. Okay. Now, gosh, I'm really mad that I can't find where. Okay, I finally found the article. Here we go. This is where I okay, Ashton Genty, Brock Bowers. Here we go. Vital, Blake Corum, hold Kyron Williams. Okay, so Stafford's 5 touchdowns against the blitz are tied for the most in a game by a quarterback in the NGS era since 2016. Why do I say this? I say this because a lot of times when quarterbacks are getting older, we start trying to anticipate when they're going to decline. Matthew Stafford is playing at a very high level. I would argue that he's not even started his dip yet. Davante Adams caught 5 of his 8 targets for 35 yards and 3 touchdowns, but the points are great, but I mean, he only caught 5 for 35. You know what I mean? With 3 of 5 receptions and 32 of 35 yards coming against Newsome, I could see why people might want to do that, but this is fantasy football. This was, and when I made my wide receiver rankings, Davante Adams was my wide receiver 1 for week 7, and he delivered. And that's why I chase red zone targets right there, because you might look at that as maybe as somebody. I'm not saying you guys aren't smart, but I'm just saying, if you aren't like getting into the weeds and studying super hard, on the surface, it looks like Davante Adams caught 5 of 8 for only 35 yards and 3 touchdowns. So next week, God forbid, 3 of his 5 catches aren't in the frickin' end zone. This guy's going to have 7 points. But it's important to remember that what happened on Sunday in London is what has been happening every single week. This was not a one-offer. It's just that those red zone targets finally started connecting. I even had a FanDuel bet in for him to have multiple touchdowns, to score 2+ touchdowns in this game. And it would have paid out a lot of money because I had parlayed it, and I should have just left it by itself. But I was trying to get, massive payout. Now the expectation is that Puka Nacua is going to return after the bye week. So I wouldn't chase any tight ends in LA right now. The Rams utilized 13 personnel, 1 running back and 3 tight ends on 38.7% of their offensive plays in week 7, which is the highest usage rate by an offense in the next gen stats era since 2016. Tyler Higbee seems like the front runner at tight end with 6 targets, but he's marginal at best. The backfield was a split between Kyron Williams and Blake Corum, 60% of snaps, 40 for Blake Corum. Both had 12 carries despite the Rams playing with a strong lead, and Corum didn't seem to be limited by his injury last week. So 6 of Corum's carries come on Matthew Stafford's last drive, and Williams had 1 carry on this drive. Both guys also drew 3 red zone opportunities. Corum actually seeing more goal line carries than Kyron. Kyron is still RB1, but Corum's going to continue to mix in high-end handcuff option, which I would make sure to keep on the bench if Williams were on my roster, just in case. It's also not a takeover in effect, but just a usage note that Blake Corum has a weekly role in the Rams offense, and it might eat into Kyren Williams' production at times. So make Williams more of a hold than a trade buy/sell. They've got the Saints coming up after the bye week. Saints, 49ers, Seahawks, Tampa Bay, Carolina, Arizona, then the Lions. So a good mix between difficult and easy opponents. And Adam says my waivers are crazy. I'm 2-5. Sometimes you just gotta dump it out. You know what I mean? Like, and I say this all the time. I'm like, if you've added like 7 guys and you just like the way their name looks. I know this sounds stupid, but this is a real thing. Let's say it's Travis Hunter, right? You're a high profile draft pick. You just like the way it looks on your bench. Like, no, I haven't played him yet, but I don't want to drop him. At what point do you get over that and drop him, right? Because he's eating up a spot. Now, you could be going after these guys. Like, there's a lot of guys that, you could have acquired if you're willing. Like, if you're 2-5, like, now is the time to start getting aggressive, or the season's going to just pass you by. You got nothing to lose, right? Obviously, if you don't do anything different, you're on pace to miss the postseason. So now's the time to be aggressive. Sell Darren Waller. Like Darren Waller, before he was injured, Achane rushed 5 times for 81 yards, including 62 yards over expected from 22 personnel, which is 2 running backs and 2 tight ends. He gained the most rushing yards from 22 personnel by any player this season, with all of them coming in the first half. This was before Darren Waller was injured. So think about this. I'm going to say it one more time because I know I'm throwing a lot of numbers and personnel. Before Darren Waller was injured, okay, Achane rushed 5 times for 81 yards, including 62 yards over expected from 22 personnel. He gained most of his rushing yards from 22 personnel by any player this season, with all of them coming in the first half. Achane's 8 attempts from other personnel groupings went for 1 yard, -29 over expected via Next Gen Stats. Very interesting stuff, right? So Darren Waller, before he was injured, they were able to do the 22 personnel because they had 2 tight ends that they could, deploy out onto the field, and Achane was, doing really great. 12 of his 13 carries were outside the tackles. You had multiple tight ends, and then when Darren Waller got hurt and they only had 1 tight end out there, Achane, his groupings went for 1 yard, -29 over expected. Darren Waller's issue's never been about ability. It's about availability. And unfortunately, the injuries, they reared their ugly head for the Dolphins week 7. Darren Waller left with a pectoral injury after a goose egg. And Devon Achane, he did great, but then all of a sudden, after the Darren Waller injury, he got nothing. Tyreek Hill's injury, was it was a bad year for him already. PFF's 12th highest graded wide receiver this season was Jalen Waddle. He's been fantastic outside since Tyreek Hill's injury. So this could be a buy low. However, buy cautiously. The Dolphins are in a weird spot with their head coach and quarterback. If Tua gets benched, thank you. That hurts Jalen Waddle naturally, because Tua, with all of his flaws, he does have a rapport. He does have a rapport with Jalen Waddle. So I think Jalen Waddle's a buy low. I think Darren Waller is a sell medium. I don't know if you could sell high, but I would try. Um, I would add Blake Corum. I would hold Kyron Williams. I would add Gadsden, like I said earlier. I would buy Ladd McConkey. Quentin Johnson picked up a defensive pass interference call on a deep target from Herbert, but he was a massive letdown after missing last week. 2 catches, 30 yards, 1 touchdown on 6 targets. Meanwhile, Ladd McConkey had 15 targets, 9 catches, 67 yards, 27% target share. Keenan Allen, 14 targets, 11 catches, 119 yards, a touchdown. And then Gadsden exploded with 164 yards on 7 catches and 9 targets. Second game in a row that Gadsden cooked. Like I said earlier, second game in a row. Last week he had 8 targets. This week he had 9 targets. He had 3 targets in the red zone. He's popped several games this season. Week 4, he posted a freaking 47% target rate per route run, and the usage was very strong in week 6. The production followed in week 7. His routes, 77% of his routes were on passing plays, and his snaps also continue to climb. He hung a 14 catch, 232 yard, 1 touchdown line on 17 targets over the last 2 games. Again, a lot of these Chargers are going to see boosted levels of production with Quentin Johnson out. Crazy, right? But among the rookies, Gadsden's been head and shoulders above all the other rookie wide receivers. Add tight end eligibility to the mix and bang, cooking with gas, because we know how Harbaugh likes to run. Like tight end eligibility in these power run formations where he wants to give the illusion of run, but then you can have a tight end that is not a liability to the running game, and you can go out on the field and actually be a true wide receiver threat. And like I said, cooking with bacon oil. So Ladd didn't score despite 3 red zone targets. All 3 were in the red zone and 113 incomplete air yards, 34% air yard share. How he didn't go even more nuclear is beyond me, but the second-year wide receiver is starting to go even more nuclear, in my opinion. He's closing the gap on his 2 teammates. But when this season started, everybody was wondering, how is Ladd McConkey going to get utilized with the Quentin Johnson? Because nobody thought Quentin Johnson was going to take as big of a jump as he did. And then you combine that with Keenan Allen coming back, and people were getting really worried. But I think the Chargers, by week 3, you felt pretty comfortable with Ladd McConkey. You're like, okay, he's still gonna get his targets. Like it's not gonna be 17 targets, but he's gonna get 11 or 12, and that's good enough for a starting wide receiver. And that makes him a buy for me, especially with the Vikings up next. Their defense is cooked from the slot. McConkey saw 11 targets from the slot just last week. And rule of thumb, whoever you have slot receiver going against the Vikings defense is usually a great matchup. And Ladd checks all the boxes through 7 games of a wide receiver you need to buy. Reminds me a lot of JSN from last season. JSN through 7 games in 2024 led the NFL in routes run and slot routes. He was top 10 in targets and catches, underperforming versus expected points, minus 20.4. And he saw boosted production with an eventual teammate injury, DK Metcalf, right? McConkey through 7 games in 2025 leads the NFL in routes run and second in slot routes, top 10 in targets / catches, underperforming versus expected points per game, minus 13.4, and he saw boosted production with a teammate injury. It's exactly the same situation as JSN last year. And then Vidal was quiet, 9 for 20 rushing, 4 catches, 15 yards, 5 targets. Still was clearly ahead of Hassan Haskins with a 65% snap rate. Haskins may also not be 100% healthy. Monday's injury report for the Chargers and Vikings, this was released yesterday. And a lot of times the Monday injury report is what is it? Not simulated. It's a predicted injury report because they take the day off, and it's basically saying that it's an estimate. Yeah, because an estimate indicates the team did not practice, but participation would have been an estimate. Hey, we didn't practice today, but if we did, this player probably wouldn't have practiced, if that makes sense. There's no Ash Monday. Indicates team conducted a walkthrough and participation is an estimate. Okay. So Joe Alt limited. That's a good sign. Obviously you don't want to see him there at all, but did not practice is a really good sign. Hassan Haskins did not practice Monday. And then that's the only ones that matter for fantasy football. Aiden said, low key, I just checked. I got Keon Coleman, Christian Kirk, Ty Johnson, Xavier Legette. Should I pick one of them up and drop either Ridley, RJ Harvey, Ayuk, Benson, Hunter, and Henry? Which you're not saying Hunter Henry, right? You're not saying the Patriots tight end, Hunter Henry. You are saying Hunter Henry, aren't you? Okay. Okay. Is that where we're at with Hunter Henry after the last couple weeks? He's got 5 targets, 4 catches last week for 33 yards. Who's your other tight end? RJ Harvey. RJ Harvey is such a wild card. You know what? I don't know if I would drop RJ Harvey yet. And the only reason I say that is because I don't know if the Denver Broncos have even I don't know if they've even I don't want to use the word identity. Okay. Identity is like, hey, this is what we are. Denver has an identity, but I think they're going to be changing it. All right. Sean's running a ton of screen plays. There's been a lot of complaints. We've seen them look bad in the first, second, and third quarter. And that was, 2 weeks in a row. So I'm expecting a lot of changes from a player calling standpoint or a play calling standpoint. And I feel like, look, you've held him this long, RJ Harvey. Why not hold him, a couple more weeks until we see what those adjustments look like? Because RJ Harvey may be the guy that, benefits from what's coming around the corner. Now, it's very possible that he doesn't, but I'm just saying, like, as somebody that I watch all of the press conferences throughout the week, and I continue to hear Sean talk about how they're working on getting RJ Harvey more touches, more involved in the game plan, combining that with the lackluster performance from the last 2 weeks. It may be the perfect storm for wanting RJ Harvey on your bench just in case. Now, if a couple weeks goes by and it's the same thing, at some point, you got to let go, right? So I would be okay with it then, but I would say now would be the bad time just because you held him this long and you got nothing, for it. You might as well wait 2 more weeks because wouldn't it suck if you let him go and all of a sudden he's getting 17 to 20 points 2 weeks in a row. I mean, that would suck. So let me do you a favor and tell you that that's possible. Now, Calvin Ridley, I just there. How can you trust anything right now in Tennessee? So I hate that you would have to drop him. Is it possible? Even, I mean, he's got one catch last week. He had a hamstring injury. So then he's ruled out. Even so, he only has one game where he's cracked 10 points. Yeah, I think it's safe to just drop him. Like I said, sometimes a name is just so like that's a number one wide receiver. Like, it's a shame that somebody that talented without any competition, this should be a bona fide star, and yet Tennessee's made it so even the sure thing is too questionable to trust. So yeah, I think dropping Ridley. I don't know if I would drop Brandon Ayuk. He's just too talented of a guy, and things are about to change, right? You're going to get Brock Purdy is going to come back, physically unable to perform. Okay. When is he coming back? Ayuk, week 10 is the rough estimate. Oh, that'll be here before you know it. Brandon Ayuk's only going to miss 2 more games. He's only going to miss 2 more games. He's going to open up his 21-day window. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, until we get word that the 49ers are going to open his 21-day return window, it's hard to trust that he's going to be back. But the anticipation is week 10 right now. And it would be about the earliest he would return based on how the 49ers have handled it so far. Definitely don't drop Brandon Ayuk. So Ridley, yes. Trey Benson. Look, a lot of people are like, hey, what are we going to do? We got a running back by committee. What are we going to do until Trey Benson comes back? Until Trey Benson comes back. The way they talk about it, you would think Trey Benson was getting 20 points a week before he got injured. You know what I mean? Like, oh my God, ever since Trey Benson got hurt, Arizona's running back room is a shit show. No one knows what to do at running back. Like, we do all realize Trey Benson went over double-digit fantasy points only one time, and he hit 10 carries only one time. You know what I mean? Like, oh, but he's so valuable as a wide receiver. I mean, kind of. Look, he even on games where he had 6 targets, it only manifested to six targets, 4 catches, 30 yards on a 8-point day. Like, look, I have no problem dropping Trey Benson, and there's a lot of people are like, hold, Trey Benson's going to be on, he's going to be healthy again soon. I'm like, did we see something different? Like, what is this like hype around Trey Benson? Like, look, I'm a Florida State fan. I love the guy, but I'm just talking fantasy football here. There's no reason to be like, oh man, things have gotten so weird in Arizona since Trey Benson. Like, Trey Benson was not, I mean, arguably the running backs are doing better now. And now it's supposedly confusing. And back when Trey Benson was the running back, there was clarity. None of it makes sense to me. I would drop Trey Benson. I would drop Calvin Ridley. I would hold RJ Harvey, and I would definitely hold Brandon Ayuk. And Hunter Henry, if you don't have another good tight end, I would not drop him unless you could go on the waiver wire and pick up like a Gadsden or a Cade Otton, right? If one of those guys become available. Also, Theo Johnson is available right now. Theo Johnson's shown a lot of rapport with, the Jackson Dart. He had 7 targets last week. 2 weeks ago, he had 7 targets. He had 4 targets sandwiched between 2 7-target games. He's got 4 touchdowns in as many weeks. So, I mean, you're starting to like what you're seeing from Theo Johnson. And if you're in a bad situation at tight end where it's like every week I'm getting 7 points, or less, I like, you don't know what to do. You keep starting Jawan Johnson and he keeps getting like 5, 3, 1 because he had a couple 15-point games week 1 and week 2. And it feels like you're chasing that. And I know he just had 12.9 points. That was his first game over 5 points since week 3. So if it feels like you want to go a different route, maybe pick up a Theo Johnson and see what happens. So, but yeah, and look, there's going to be a lot of people trying to pick up Gadsden. So keep in mind, like, where you're at on the waiver wire, what your priority is. Because unless you're priority 1, like, don't expect to get him. Like, you know what I mean? Like, everyone's thinking the same thing. I'm going to go get this guy. Everyone thinks they're going to get him, right? The reality is, unless you're just in a league where people, they don't really get active on the waiver wire. Look, my waiver priority is 9th. So I need 9 other teams to say, I don't need him. Right? And it's like, if I was, and I know because I've done this before where it's like, even if I had the best team in the league, I would pick up a guy like Gadsden just so he doesn't end up on an opposing team. Even if I had like Travis Kelce from 4 years ago, you could call it a dick move, but sometimes the best offense is a defense, right? Gosh, that was a Madden quote. But yeah, let's keep those lineup questions rolling in the chat. Let me know what your lineup questions are. We're going to go kicker rankings for week 8. The number 1 fantasy kicker is, drum roll, please. We got to get the drum roll whenever we're talking kickers, right? Will Rickards. Will Rickard led all scores with 18 fantasy points on Sunday versus the Eagles, while taking advantage of suspect quarterback play from Carson Wentz. He made 5 field goals, 1 extra point to post his second double-digit game of the season. These are widely available kickers with really strong week 7 performances. Okay, Jake Moody. He's only rostered on 3% of leagues in Yahoo. As a 49ers fan, it pains me to write this, but Jake Moody appears to have found his place with the Bears. He has 29 fantasy points in his last 2 games. I am not a 49ers fan, but the person who is suggesting this is. Widely rostered kickers with dud performances, Chase McLaughlin. That's me. I have Chase McLaughlin. He was the only kicker rostered in over 80% of leagues to score 5 or fewer points in week 7. So, yes, he was the biggest dud. Let's talk week 8 kicker ratings. Okay. So, the number 1 fantasy kicker for week 8 is Brandon Aubrey. Yeah. Oh, I know. Brandon Aubrey, come up here and talk to the people. Tell them what it means to be the number one fantasy kicker. Well, first off, I just want to say thank you guys. It means a lot, the over under is 48.5 going to Denver playing this Broncos team. We get into a lot of shootouts. Would not be surprised if this is a high scoring game. It's one of the highest over under totals this week. Not the highest, but definitely top 5. And with the altitude, you know that I got no problem kicking a 70-yard field goal. All right. Thank you, Brandon Aubrey. All right. Now it's time for our number 2 kicker. And our number 2 kicker for week 8, Cameron Dicker. Woo! Cameron Dicker is going to be the number 2 kicker. And number 3, it's going to be after a dud performance. It's going to be Chase McLaughlin. We're going to let Chase McLaughlin get the number 3 spot after a dud. I know. Yeah, but you know what? It's fantasy football, and you just have to have a short-term memory. A lot of times you just have to have what was I thinking?
I wish I were high on pot news. I wish I was high on pot news.
Yeah, you just have to have short-term memory loss. You just can't be, Chase McLaughlin had a bad week. It's going to happen here and there. Harrison Butker at 4, Chris Braswell at 5, Eddie Pinheiro at 6, Matt Prater at 7, and Fairbarn at 8, Michael Badgley at 9, and Parker Romo at 10. All right. I'm not sure if there's anybody actually out there that picks up a new kicker every single week. I think I had one fantasy football year where that was a thing for me. That is not the case, but I've been going with Chase McLaughlin all season. Okay. Now, waiver central, and this is just like I can only tell you, what my league has, and I would imagine yours is similar. Garrett Wilson is available in my league. If he's available in your league, pick him up. I doubt he's available. He's rostered in 100% of leagues. Chris Godwin, another wide receiver that is available. His injury has not received much clarification. He made his season debut late due to an ankle injury, but he has not played much since due to a fibula injury. He played in just one game before missing multiple games and is one of multiple Buccaneer playmakers set to miss this contest, which was the Lions game. And now we're thinking maybe he's going to get healthy, and that's great news for a Tampa Bay team that obviously needs some help. Okay. We talked about Zonovan Knight. We talked about holding him, and we talked about selling Marvin Harrison Jr. I told you to buy all Falcons, all of them. Drake London was a disappointment, but he still had 10 targets. Buy low. Darnell Mooney made his return to the lineup. 7 targets. Kyle Pitts, 11 targets, 7 receptions, 62 yards. A lackluster primetime showing. The entire offense is now a buy low spot. And the Dolphins are next week. I'm not sure what the over-under for Bijan rushing yards. I don't know if it can be set high enough. Like, I'm willing to take the over without even looking at it. If you're in a pinch, you could probably even flex Tyler Algier this week as well. I'm not even kidding about that. I know it sounds gross, but Tyler Algier has actually gotten some red zone touches on the goal line for the Falcons. I like the schedule, through for the Falcons. They have a top 10 schedule for running backs going against opposing teams. When you look at strength of schedule for fantasy, keep in mind the Falcons fired their previous wide receiver coach before week 4 in an effort to get more offensive wide receiver production. So far, so good. This is something a lot of people haven't been talking about. I mean, before week 4, the Falcons were so disappointed with the wide receiver production, they fired the coach. And since then, things have looked really good. The last 3 weeks, London has averaged 12 targets, 7.3 receptions, 103 receiving yards per game. The Falcons have the number 1 strength of schedule rest of the season for QBs. Let Michael Penix cook. Solid playoff schedule as well. You get into the playoffs, they're going against Tampa Bay, Arizona, and Los Angeles Rams. There's going to be some shootouts. Be sure to monitor his status this week. He hurt his leg toward the end of the game, labeled as day-to-day, which usually is usually more pessimistic than optimistic. But we'll take a look. Add Kirk Cousins just in case. Atlanta lost starting linebacker Devine Diablo in this game. Okay, Baltimore Ravens, buy Derrick Henry. Add Isaiah Likely. Naturally, when I generate the courage to take the under on the big dog in a brutal matchup, he truck sticks me. Derrick Henry rushed 122 yards with no touchdowns in week 6. At least the buy low take from last week aged well. It looks even better with the Bears-Bengals up next for the Ravens. So go ahead, buy Derrick Henry. If you didn't do it last week when I asked you to, do it now and add Isaiah Likely. And look, the Isaiah Likely thing, we'll get to that. Okay. Zay Flowers entered week 6 on a pitch count, but you couldn't tell from the box score. 6 catches, 46, team high 10 targets, and apparently there was no snap count. Now, he had a 91% snap rate for the Ravens wide receiver number 1 spot. 90. I mean, he's clearly what are these ghost reports about players' playing time? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, he's going to be on a pitch count. No, he wasn't. Like, where is this information coming from? The Ravens are screaming buy low candidates across the board with the idea that Lamar Jackson is going to come back after the bye. Harbaugh noted after Sunday's loss to the Rams that Jackson is expected to return week 8. If there's anybody to consider stashing, it's Isaiah Likely. Mark Andrews has been heavily discussed in trades dating back to the summer. There is no extra years on his contract, so if the season is up and the Ravens haven't gotten rid of him, they are not going to get anything for him. So even if a team calls and offers a 6th-round draft pick for Mark Andrews, that is something that the Ravens will likely agree to, knowing they have no leverage in this because we all know that the Ravens will get nothing if they try to play hardball. Isaiah Likely outsnapped Andrews 81% to 78% in week 6, running more routes than the veteran. So we know which way the Ravens are going at tight end. Speaking of tight end, Dalton Kincaid did not play before the Bills bye week due to an oblique injury. I had him starting, and then, of course, by Monday night when I get this news, I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Luckily, I was able to add Knox, and he got a touchdown, so it kind of saved the game. But that was just the first injury for Buffalo that we had to deal with. They also lost Daquan Jones, along with more secondary injuries. Josh Palmer was injured. Palmer looked primed for a big game. Even the broadcast spoke about Joe Brady wanting to get him more involved, but he got hurt after his second catch. Palmer's been labeled week to week. Then you got Tyrell Shavers, who has been sneakily getting more and more involved, which I don't believe is a recipe for success. Keon Coleman led the team with 6 targets, but he finished with just 3 catches for 11 yards. If Kincaid and Palmer are out for the long term, Buffalo needs their second-year wide receiver to step up. Okay, there's no more excuses. Like Keon Coleman, the yardage hasn't been there, but Coleman has had 6+ targets in back-to-back games. But you just have to trust the process right now. Add Coleman after he gets dropped this week. The Bills are on a bye week in week 7. So if you're like, I know he's not getting dropped in my league because my brother has him and he's a Florida State fan. So, but this is a really good buy low spot if you can swing it. James Cook played a season low, not including blowouts in snaps versus Atlanta. The Bills took him out in passing downs in favor of Ty Johnson. Why, though? Sorry. With Cook running the ball effectively and Buffalo down multiple skilled players, this made no sense, and I just have to say it. Why in the world would you do that? Like, Buffalo likes Johnson as a pass catcher, but when push comes to shove, like, Cook is the guy you paid to be your superstar. He's your better pass catcher. I mean, when Sean McDermott was asked about Cook's usage post game, he acknowledged it might change moving forward, and we're all like, what a novel idea. Yeah, good job. Buy Cook coming off the bye week. Note also that the Panthers matchup isn't as great as it was in the preseason. Their defense has vastly improved against the run, and I said it was going to because I believe they have the 3rd best defensive coach in the country in Evero, maybe the 4th. He's top 5. The Panthers, they have a talent issue, arguably, on defense. They do not have a coaching issue. Buy T-Mac. Do it. Do it now. Panthers running back usage. Chuba Hubbard, 54% snaps. Ricky Dowdle had 46% of snaps. The Panthers went back to the guy they paid. Hubbard started and led the team with more first half carries, 9 versus 4. Dowdle was more efficient on a per touch basis. Basically, we're just looking at a 50-50 split, which is what we anticipated, which is not ideal for fantasy football because I don't think that they're going to change their approach unless there's an injury. And keep in mind that Hubbard was knocking off some rust after missing time with an injury. So also starting guard Damian Lewis did not play in this game. So both Panther running backs will be usable versus the Bills' poor run defense. Bryce Young also left the game with an ankle injury. An MRI reveals it's a high ankle sprain. Like that, he's probably not going to play. I mean, a high ankle sprain. He's going to miss. Yeah, he's missing next week. Andy Dalton's going to start. When I was young, I thought an ankle sprain, like, you can't miss a game for an ankle sprain. Like, come on, what are you doing, wimp? I sprained my ankle. I can't believe these guys come back. Like, I sprained my ankle when I was 20 years old. I'm 31 now, and I have permanent damage. I snapped my ankle. Oh, I still cringe thinking about it. Oh, God. Anyway, there's grades. There's levels to this shit. There's levels to it. And I don't know what level Bryce Young's ankle is, but long ago are the days of me seeing ankle on the injury report and going, you're going to miss a game for that? I fully respect an ankle injury. I'm like, take your time, brother. Maybe he'll be back by Christmas. Xavier Legette, also got hurt in this game. He had a career game, 9 catches, 92 yards, a touchdown on 11 targets. And he was talking after getting his first touchdown the week prior. I was listening to his press conference in the locker room, and he's like, it feels really good to be out there. And it's like, it's starting to ramp up. Legette is starting to get peppered. Now, this might not have even happened had it not been for Young's injury, because the minute Dalton steps in as QB1, Legette, like I said, peppered with targets. And because we know that Bryce Young's missing at least next week, Xavier Legette is somebody you should be adding on your waiver wire. And as I say this, I'm adding him, and I'm going to flex him this week. Yeah. Drop Josh Downs. There we go. All right. So I got Chris Godwin, Garrett Wilson, Gadsden for TJ Hockenson, Xavier Legette, TJ Hockenson. So it says pending transactions 6, but it's only showing me 5. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. Let's see. Oh, I guess, I don't know. Maybe you have used 0 of 2 IR spots on your roster. Is Green Bay's defense even worth starting every single week? I mean, they had 10 points week 1, and then 5, 8, -3 by week 2, 2 points against the Bengals. I mean, we were all like, we're holding Green Bay through the bye week because they're playing the Bengals after it, then Arizona. They combined for 10 points in both of those games. I'm just like, I don't know. I felt a lot higher. I was a lot higher on Green Bay's defense. Tampa Bay's defense against the Saints. Cincinnati's defense against the Jets. Anybody's defense against the Jets, right? Dude, why did the Jets not just trade it for Kirk Cousins? They have to be tanking. If they weren't tanking, why wouldn't they want Kirk Cousins? Right? I can't be the only one that notices this. You guys definitely notice. T-Mac kept quiet. He had a tough matchup. Back to being a buy low, especially if Young is out for an extended period. We've seen Dalton fuel fantasy success for Panther wide receivers in this Dave Canales offense before. The rookie wide receiver is 19th. Add Kyle Monangai and Colston Loveland. Hold DeAndre Swift, buy Rome Odunze, sell DJ Moore. Okay? That is for the Bears. Okay? I'm only going down to the Bengals, and then you're going to have to tune in tomorrow where I'm going to start with the Cleveland Brown and Harold Fannin. Somebody asked me earlier, what should I do with Harold Fannin? He's saying I'm going to drop him. No, you shouldn't. The Browns used an extra lineman at 22 of 52 plays. Overall, the 40.9%, the highest rate of any team in a game this season. Junkins became the first player since the start of 2022 to score 3 rushing touchdowns from Jumbo in a game and gain the 3rd most rushing yards from Jumbo of any player this season. The only other team that runs Jumbo a lot is the Buffalo Bills, and weirdly enough, they throw from Jumbo 60% of the time, which is wild. But it's a whole nother thing. They gained the third most rushing yards from Jumbo of any player this season, despite the Browns frequently aligning their swing tackle to the left. Junkins totaled 83 yards and all 3 of his touchdowns on 15 carries to the right side of the formation, compared to just 1 yard on 10 rushes to the left. Junkins also scored 2 of his 3 touchdowns on direct snaps. He was a buy low after a terrible game because Miami's run defense is historically bad. Tougher spot next week versus the Patriots' run defense on the road. If you want to sell high, now would be the time to do so. However, the talent has been so good that I would have to be blown away by an offer. Rookie tight end Harold Fannin led the team in targets. 28% target share. He only went 4 for 36, but nobody else on the team had more than 2 catches. Remains a usable tight end given the Njoku injury. Keep in mind that Fannin ran a route on 85% of the dropbacks in this game. Both his route participation and target shares were season highs with Njoku out. If anything, the Browns are continuing to ramp Fannin up. And that's why it's always more important to look at the context than just the number. The number is low, but the context tells you that if anything, the Browns are ramping him up, and you should expect more fantasy points, regardless of what the outcome was last week. I just told you I wasn't going to tell you about the Cleveland Browns next week. Okay, I'm starting with the Cowboys next week, and I'm going to finish with the Bears. Okay, per Next Gen Stats, DeAndre Swift ran for 124 yards and a touchdown on 19 carries against the Saints, gaining 30-plus rushing yards over expected and a season-high 79 yards after contact. Swift also tied his career high with 5 runs of 10 or more yards. It was the outside running game where Swift was at his best, gaining 102 of his 124 yards, including all 5 explosive runs. Swift has been at his best this season when he's been running to the outside, 52% snap rate. He was listed as a hold last week because of the favorable matchups upcoming. Because this matchup was definitely great, given that both Bear running backs ate. Kyle Monangai rushed 13 times for 81 yards, and he also scored 7 red zone touches for Swift, while Monangai got 3 of his own. The rookie also drew more targets. A lot of Monangai's carries in the fourth quarter, so he probably isn't taking Swift's job anytime soon. But the upside case here is that if Swift gets hurt or stumbles down the line, the former Rutgers standout has a role indicated by his season-high 46% snap rate. However, the upcoming schedule is great for the Bears, and Swift looks much better post-bye week through 2 games. Probably a better hold than sell, unless you can get someone to overpay. Swift is a fantasy RB2, always has been, likely always will be, no more, no less. Roma Dunze didn't have a touchdown wiped off the scoreboard this time. Cole Kmet got hurt in this game, back injury. Colston Loveland, 3 for 24 on 4 targets. But yeah, I still think DJ Moore is, if you still have DJ Moore, try to sell him. Okay? Try to sell him. Do whatever you can to try to sell him. Okay? It is definitely time. And we've kind of known this for a couple weeks, right? There's nothing shocking about what I'm saying, but sometimes you just can't find somebody interested. Sometimes people just aren't asking. Like, try to ask, right? See what somebody's willing. Find somebody that doesn't have a running back, or I'm sorry, a good wide receiver. And yeah, that guy's going to just be like, oh, DJ Moore, he's a very good wide receiver. And they'll cross their fingers that, he returns to form. And it won't be you. Note, too, that DJ Moore was also transported to the hospital after the Commanders game, where he was held for an overnight precautionary medical evaluation. He was questionable all week. With the hospital visit, we thought he wasn't going to play. And then on Friday, he was cleared to play on Sunday. And then we saw him go out there and have his normal lackluster performance. So tomorrow, all right, tomorrow's going to be good, because tomorrow we're going to be talking about which waiver wires you should be streaming for quarterbacks. Jackson Dart versus Philly. We got Aaron Rodgers versus the Packers. Carson Wentz versus the Chargers. Did I say that twice? Aaron Rodgers versus the Packers. Carson Wentz versus the Chargers. Joe Flacco versus the Jets. And I'll tell you why. And then I got streaming defenses, streaming tight ends. Kyle Pitts is only rostered in 67% of leagues. Wild. Evan Ingram, and we talked about Gadsden today, but Evan Ingram's another guy that is really becoming a steady option for Bo Nix. We'll talk about that tomorrow. And then we're going to talk about streaming defenses, okay? Which defenses we should get, and we rank them based on who they're playing, okay? So starting out, I got the start with confidence tier for defenses, Indianapolis and New England, going against Cam Ward and Dylan Gabriel. Okay. Then there's still a fine choice. Atlanta going against Tua, Buffalo going against Carolina, Tampa Bay going against Spencer Rattler, the Chiefs going against Marcus Mariota. And then you have, maybe you can't find something better tier. And then surely you can find something better tier. Unfortunately, the Packers are in this tier this week, going against Aaron Rodgers, Baltimore going against Caleb Williams, Cleveland going against the Patriots. So Denver is ranked 8th, Philly 7, Chiefs 6, Tampa Bay 5, Buffalo 4, Atlanta 3, New England 2, Indianapolis 1. Atlanta, I'm going to check my league really quick and see, is Atlanta available? Yes, Atlanta's available. Cincinnati's available. Tampa Bay's available. And Tampa Bay's ranked 4th. And Atlanta's ranked 3rd going against Tua. Yeah, I mean, Atlanta, the Dolphins are in a crisis. The talking heads have been calling for Mike McDaniels to be fired, Tua to be benched, or both. Last week, they made Cleveland the number 1 fantasy defense. They had 4 turnovers, including a pick 6. Ever since his concussions in 2022, Tua has learned how to take tackles and sacks, but he has been doing it at a below average rate. But he doesn't seem to be like just throwing the ball and seeing the field as well as he was just a couple years ago. Right? The elite pass rushers do still get to him. You saw that last week with Cleveland's 4 sacks. This week, they're going to face the Falcons, who are number 2 among defenses in terms of yards allowed per game, and they're number 1 against the pass. So, Atlanta, a really good streaming option this week. And for that reason, I'm going to pick up Atlanta, I think. And Green Bay is projected 6.7 fantasy points. Atlanta's 6.6. Atlanta's projected less than Green Bay. How? How is that possible? Green Bay's just not doing that much for me right now. And let me see, like, okay, they got Miami, then they got New England, Indianapolis, Carolina, New Orleans, the Jets. Okay. Forecast. I'm going to sleep on that. I just don't know what to do. Like, I don't like starting Green Bay's defense anymore. It's just not doing anything for me. Pittsburgh, Carolina, Philly, New York Giants, Minnesota, Detroit, Chicago, Denver, Chicago, Baltimore. Green Bay's defense is, to me, like, they're just not startable anymore. So tomorrow I will be going live again. Like I said, thank you guys for hanging around and watching. We had a lot of fun, and I think we got a lot. I want to get more lineup questions asked to me. Hopefully tomorrow you guys bring those in, and we can beat Cox.
Tyrell Williams, he beats Cox.
We just want to get these names right and get them in the right order. It's going to be a good time tomorrow. Make sure you guys are here. You can follow me at NFL with Kyle, and you can follow the Only Football podcast. Now it's just Only Football on YouTube. If you just look up Only Football Pod, it'll come up, or NFL with Kyle. You follow one, you follow them all. Hit the like button, hit the sub button. Put your lineup questions in the comment section if you're watching this later. And I will see you guys hopefully tomorrow, because you guys better be there. All right. Have a good night.